Today I'm going to talk about bribery as an ethical issue on international business. Bribery is defined by Black's Law Dictionary as the offering, giving, receiving, or soliciting of any item of value to influence the actions of an official or other person in charge of a public or legal duty. With regard to governmental operations, essentially, bribery is corruption, solicitation, acceptance, or transfer of value in exchange for official action. Corruption originates from a Latin word, corruptus. The word is the past participle of corrompere, meaning mar, bribe, destroy. Corruption is as old as human history. The first dynasty, 2100 to 2700 before Christ, of ancient Egypt noted corruption in its judiciary. As the global economy expanded significantly during the 20th century, levels of corruption increased as well. It is difficult to estimate the global magnitude and extent of corruption since these activities are carried out in secret. The World Bank estimates international bribery exceeds $1.5 trillion annually, or 2% of global GDP and 10 times more than total global aid funds. Other estimates are higher at 2 to 5% of global GDP. According to Transparency International, 68% of countries worldwide have a serious corruption problem, and not one single country is corruption-free. Brazil's greatest corruption scandal, codenamed Lava Jato Car Wash, unearthed a vast and extraordinarily complex web of corruption. Directors of Petrobras, Brazil national oil company, used a slush fund to pay politicians who had appointed them to support the election campaigns of the governing coalition. Another major recent corruption case is in Malaysia. Former Prime Minister Najib Razak is being investigated for misappropriation from the Malaysian strategic company, One Malaysia Development Berhad, which he chaired. The U.S. Department of Justice has alleged $4.5 billion was misappropriated. In 2017, South Korea impeached its president, Park Geun-hye, for bribery and other charges. In 2018, she was convicted of abuse of power, coercion, and bribery and jailed for 24 years. In 2018, the ruling African National Congress sacked President Jacob Zuma, who has been charged with corruption. Some effects of bribery are impacts on firms' reputation and on their financial standing when they are faced with legal costs. Depends on whether or not the company illicit acts are ever brought to light. And fact is, many instances will fail to ever be reported. When corruption is reported in a business, the existing investors and shareholders will lose the confidence and trust that they had put in the business. When fraud is perpetuated within an organization, then the risk of accruing losses by entrepreneurs is increased. The sales will reduce with reduced public confidence in the firm, and resources will be made scarce through the fraud and embezzlement. The OECD Anti-Bribery Convention, officially Convention on Combating Bribery of Foreign Public Officials in International Business Transactions, is an anti-corruption convention of the OECD aimed at reducing political corruption and corporate crime in developing countries by encouraging sanctions against bribery in international business transactions carried out by companies based in convention member countries. In 1989, the OECD established an ad hoc working group for comparative review of national legislations regarding the bribery of foreign public officials. In 1994, The OECD Ministerial Council adopted the recommendation of the Council on Bribery in International Business Transactions. The convention was signed on December 17, 1997 and came into force on February 15, 1999. A revised recommendation was adopted in 2009. The goal of OECD is to create a truly level playing field in today's international business environment. The convention requires adherence to criminalize acts of offering or giving bribes, but not of soliciting or receiving bribes. A 2017 study found that multinational corporations that were subject to the OECD Anti-Bribery Convention were less likely to engage in bribery than corporations that were based in non-member states. The convention is open to accession by any country which is a member of the OECD or has become a full participant in the OECD Working Group on Bribery in International Business Transactions. As of 2017, 43 countries have ratified or acceded to the convention. The OECD Anti-Bribery Convention establishes legally binding standards to criminalize bribery of foreign public officials in international business transactions and provide for a host of related measures that makes this effective. It is the first and only international anti-corruption instrument focused on the supply side of the bribery transaction. Countries that have signed the convention are required to put in place legislation that criminalizes the act of bribing a foreign public official. The OECD has no authority to implement the convention, but instead monitors implementation by participating countries via its working group on bribery. Countries are responsible for implementing laws and regulations that conform to the convention and therefore provide for enforcement. I believe that the goal of OECD is achievable, since more and more countries are signing the convention and there are more regulations for their countries. And bribery can be avoided by updating the anti-bribery and anti-corruption policies either in the business or in a country. And that's all for bribery. Thank you.